Hi there, my name is Aoife Deane and this is the Happy Weight Podcast. Thanks so much for joining me. If this is your first episode listening, I'm a registered dietitian and I have a master's in nutritional medicine and I'm a hypnotherapist. But I think my best qualification is that I started dieting when I was 11 and I developed binge eating disorder and bulimia. I gained like 3 stone and 3 clothes sizes and I was yo-yoing all through my teens, 20s and like I was kind of sorted by the time I was 30, but it was horrible. It was really, really horrible. And if you have any issues with your eating and weight, I'd really like to help you. So whether you're like always on and off dieting or you're kind of anxious around food, you kind of believe in good foods, bad foods, good days, bad days, on the wagon, off the wagon, all of that stuff that really disrupts our natural weight, I'd love to kind of give you a little bit of a steer from what I've learned myself and from working with clients for 17 years. So that is the crack. And I'm just filming this the day after the Easter weekend. And it's probably a little while ago now for you when you're listening to this, but I hope you had a lovely Easter weekend. I hope you had some lovely chocolate. I actually, I was all like, oh, I eat chocolate all the time, so I could take or leave Easter Sunday. And then I woke up on Easter Sunday and I was like, actually, I don't want to leave it either. I definitely do want chocolate. So I went from undershooting the runway to then overshooting the runway because I bought 2 last minute Easter eggs and then I got given an Easter egg. So now I have all this lovely chocolate at home. And my friend Grania was over yesterday. We just had a day of total slobbing. We watched Love on the Spectrum and we had like Pringles, we had O'Donnell's, we had all our chocolate stuff from Easter. And then at the end of the day, we got a Chinese. And it's still so cool and I'm still so grateful to be able to coexist with all of those foods. And they don't need to mean that I feel sick or gross or overfed. They don't need to mean that I feel guilty. And they didn't need to affect how I felt this morning waking up. And so it's such a joy to have a good relationship with food. But anyways, today I'm going to riff a little bit on how our mind makes us overeat. Because to be honest, I kind of think that it's such hope when you realize that this isn't genetic and this isn't your age and this isn't meds or anything like that. It's such hope when you realize that a weight problem was done to your body. It's not because of your body. So what I mean by that is disordered eating and weight problems always begin first in the mind. And for everyone, even this client I was talking to this morning, she said before she was ever overweight, she remembers secret eating and feeling guilt around food. So it's kind of like it always starts in the mind first. And what's super exciting about that is once we realize that our weight issues started in our mind first, that's how then we can decide that, okay, they're also going to finish in my mind. I will come to the end of my eating and weight issues by changing how I look at things, by changing my mindset, by changing how my mind works. And the most basic thing, right, if we're overweight, if we're gone past our natural weight, is that basically to the degree that we're not happy with our weight is probably to the degree that we're eating a food and it's not that nice, but we keep eating it. Or it's down to the frequency of our belly is saying nothing and we sit down and eat a meal. Or our belly is saying it's full and we continue eating. So eating in the absence of hunger or eating when there's no physical prompt to do so, i.e. the food doesn't taste good. So again, I think when you look at weight like that, not about like, oh, I never drink soda and she always drinks soda and she's a healthy weight and I'm overweight, it's so unfair. So when you've got the good food, bad food mentality, it's really easy to feel like a victim. It's really easy to be like, oh, I do exercise and I'm still overweight and she doesn't do any exercise. However, I think things start becoming clearer when you're kind of like, yeah, but do I remember eating at times that my belly was knowingly full? I was knowingly full and I kept eating. Or do I remember times where stuff wasn't tasting that nice and I continued eating? And for me, the answers was like, hell yes. That is every day of trying to be good, is eating at scheduled times, whether you're hungry or not. And on binge days or cheat days, continuing to eat even if your body is uncomfortable. And on good days, eating foods, whether you're actually enjoying them and getting goodness out of them or not, you just eat them almost like mechanically or habitually, but there's no like love and grow and passion in your food. So I think that's something that we can really accept, right? Because then how our mind makes us overeat is literally every story your mind comes up with. When you eat a food and something clicks in your head that I'm not actually really enjoying this, then the next voice that might be like, go on, go on, go on, go on, finish it. It's like, what is it? Why? Like, what is the justification? Why does your mind tell you you should finish it? Same with our belly. So it's kind of like we're knowingly uncomfortable. And then our mind is like, no, 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 keep eating it, finish the pack, finish all of it, whatever the justification is, however it manages to convince us to go against physical signals. So that could be loads of things, but today I'm going to go over the main ones. So the main ones is like basically being down about our body. That is the number one by far. Is our mind tells us, well, you're fat anyways, so what does it matter? Like, if you got anything from this podcast or literally any of the episodes ever, I would love you to come to fore, or whatever that saying is, like come to attention whenever you hear any little rumblings in your mind of you're in a fat phase or you're fat anyways or whatever, because what our mind is trying to do there is make us eat even though it wouldn't be a positive time to eat, even though it isn't a time maybe that we would be eating with love and like because it tastes good and because we'll feel good in 20 minutes. We're just eating because we're in a shit place. And this is why I think how we're going to break free of eating and weight issues is always comes down to what we decide we deserve now. So one of my clients this morning, the big thing for her now in the last week, it's her first week starting with me, is she will be eating everything in front of people. So no secret eating, no eating in a supermarket car park, no binge eating at nighttime when everyone's gone to bed. If she's having apple pie, she's having it with her husband and kids. If she's having chocolate, she's having it with her husband and kids or her friends. So she is like, that's a huge, that's just really saying no to shame around eating and instead creating a positive relationship with it. Whereas if she was to listen to, the voice in her head about eating, this would mean that the voice in her head would be like, oh, sure, just pull in now into this supermarket and sure, just eat like whatever. And no one will ever know about it. You can hide the packets of it and no one will ever know. And now we need to be like, if I did that, right, I will be driving away from this supermarket in 20 minutes time or whatever, not feeling physically nice. So why do I deserve that? Like life is hard enough. Why do I have to opt into physical discomfort in 20 minutes time? And the other thing is, so all of that stuff is going to be swooshing around my belly and going to be being digested for the next hour or two. And then so if I do get home to my loved ones and they're having something nice, I can't really join in with that. Or even if I do join in with that, it's not really going to be comfortable because I used up all my credit. I used up all my belly space on my own in a sad car park somewhere. So then I have to miss out on the joy of eating and coming together with others. So it always makes you miss out. I just kind of think for me, I had a lovely food day yesterday, but equally today, it's a really dull day in Cork. There's fuel strikes, people are, clogging up the roads in protest about the fuel charges. And also it's midterm. So it feels like I'm the only person that's working in the world. It feels like everyone's off this week. So it's like, I really needed my gorgeous food today so far. I really needed it. And it would have been so mean of yesterday's Aoife if I was just kind of like, oh, I'll just eat all of this now. And, if I had let my mind cover up the signals in my belly and gone past the feeling of full or comfortably full, so that I'd still have to be carrying around all that extra food or digestion or heaviness or bloating today and could not get the drug and pleasure out of food that I need today. So I think that's another major difference between food as fuel types and people like us who've a history of binge eating or comfort eating. You will need comfort from food in every 5 to 6 hours, pretty much for the rest of your life. I would just bank on that you will need comfort from food in 5 or 6 hours, and you will need comfort from food like tonight, tomorrow morning, every 6 hours of your life. And it's better to just admit that, because then when your brain says something like, oh, just keep eating and then you'll be good tomorrow, you won't believe it, because that's just not true for a comfort eater. So anything around weight is the main way our mind makes us refuse to listen to our belly being comfortable and full and a time to finish up eating. And it makes no sense when you think about this, because so I started, genuinely making a genuine attempt to try and understand what my taste buds were trying to guide me to and what my belly was trying to guide me to. And every so often, more so at the start until I saw the pattern, my mind was like, this isn't working though. This isn't working. So what you should do now is you should go to the kitchen and you should open the packet or whatever. And it's like, wait a second now. So what you're saying is, because I am not letting go of weight quick enough, that I should go to the kitchen and overeat. Is that what you're saying to me? And then, I think we can have a bit of a to and fro with our mind, because my mind, what it would have done then is like, yeah, because then you can be really good tomorrow. Like if you finish out all the packets of crisps and biscuits and ice cream in the freezer and you just have a clear run of it then, like clear the house out of it, so you can have a solid start then tomorrow, that makes so much more sense. And we have to be like, no. Not the justification. What action is my mind trying to get me to do here? My mind is trying to knowingly eat past full. My mind is trying to knowingly make me physically uncomfortable through eating. And it's saying that that is for the greater good of my weight. And then our mind, like I said, can be like, yeah, because then you're going to be good tomorrow. You're in a bad phase. And now we need to wait around until we come up with the next diet to start or the next good phase. But here's a bit of a gray area. So whatever you do right now doesn't really matter. So that's the other thing our mind loves doing, is like lack of accountability. So that it doesn't matter whether you eat past full now. It doesn't matter if the stuff doesn't even taste that nice, because it's a bit of a gray area. It's a bit of a bad phase, but whatever. So with those, right, we always have to wake up and be present. And I think there's a few things we have to remind ourselves of. Us feeling physically really well in the future is not going to come ever from us feeling physically really unwell. So if our mind is saying anything like, go eat everything in the kitchen now, and then you can have a clear run of things tomorrow, you can start off good. It's kind of like, yeah, but that means the physical state you're putting me in 20 minutes is discomfort. So you're saying that if hour by hour I feel uncomfortable, that will one day lead me to a happy ever after of comfortable? Like, it doesn't work like that. So I think we have to be really strict. And then, like I said, the other thing is we're always missing out, because it's like, rather than me going to the kitchen on my own now, wolfing down packets, thinking how fat I'm becoming, thinking how the whole week is a waste and I'm going to be up a half stone or whatever, why don't I deserve to join in with the rest of life and with everyone else? Why don't I deserve to ring a friend and share cake with her in a coffee shop instead? Why don't I deserve to ask my sister-in-law, does she want to go to the cinema and get popcorn and Maltesers? Like, why can't I have food in a positive way rather than on my own in the kitchen, by myself, make myself uncomfortable? And again, if we kind of think about the future we're creating, who is more likely to get to an excellent place with their eating and weight? Someone who's hunched over, wolfing stuff down, saying negative things to themselves, making themselves feel horrible mentally and physically, or someone who's well able to meet a friend for coffee and cake, or go to the cinema and have popcorn and chocolate, and isn't ashamed of her eating, and she uses it as a positive, and she's mindful when she eats it, and she creates positive experiences. Like, which person sounds like someone who's either their ideal weight or becoming their ideal weight? So I think that's really an important one to remember. Another thing that I think muddies the water, right, is, and it's a little bit back to the number one way our mind makes us overeat, is, I think, self-hypnosis. It's kind of like, you're fat, so act like a fat person. You're fat anyway, so you might as well keep acting fat. Like I said, when I did my diplomas in hypnotherapy, I realized I am an excellent self-hypnotherapist, because I pretty much, well, obviously there was a lot of other factors, but I developed like an eating disorder. I developed binge eating disorder. I developed 3 stone of extra weight from eating at night times, nonstop grazing, nonstop snacking, nonstop on the wagon, off the wagon. Like, and a lot of the time I was doing that eating, I was telling myself, you're going to get fatter, you're going to get fatter. Oh my God, this is it. Now you're not going to lose weight and you're going to get fatter. So it worked. It worked. I did get fatter. Any of those times that I was coaching myself that I wasn't going to lose weight and I was going to get fatter, I did. So it's like I'm an excellent self-hypnotist. So when you realize that, it's like, okay, cool. And now you've got the power to do the opposite. Because basically, like, shame is such a block in all of this, right? Because shame is like, it's terrible that you haven't sorted out your weight yet. It's terrible you haven't sorted out your eating. You should be ashamed of yourself. I can't believe you're not further along. And it does all this shame, right? And now we have to be like, shit happens and I gained weight. And like, sometimes it's still weird for me to comprehend as well that this wasn't my fault. I remember my counselor saying like, well, if you developed like binge eating disorder at 11 and like bulimia at 14 and stuff, like, something's up there, like something's up with self-esteem or, you know. And I remember like just a little part of my brain was like, oh, that wasn't my fault, that I should have been more like disciplined and willpower and all of that. So like shame is also very uncompassionate about what's going on here. Like having eating and weight issues is no crack. It is no fun. So shame is the last thing we deserve, because we deserve to see it as it is. Like in many cases, it's a full-blown eating disorder and people don't even realize it. Like it meets the criteria for an eating disorder in the DSM number. People don't realize that. People are all like, oh, bitches be crazy. We diet and then we overeat. It's totally normal. It's what every woman around me does. And you're like, no, it's disordered eating. So first of all, we have to kind of see the full totality of what this has cost us. Physically, mentally, emotionally, also the time that we've been in it. Maybe that's gone on for 20 years, 40 years or whatever. But anyways, it happened. It wasn't any crack for us and we deserve to move past it. One of the biggest reasons that people's minds make them overeat is because, sure, look at you, you're fat anyways. And now we have to be kind of like, no, shit happened. I gained weight. It wasn't fun. The dieting wasn't fun. The binging wasn't fun. The gaining extra weight, the seeing my body look completely different or completely unrecognizable, none of that was fun and it was awful. And now I deserve to move on from it. So we have to keep reminding ourselves that our mind is the future and our body is the past. How our body is looking is because of the past, like months ago, years ago even. It's from all previous choices. It's how I feel mentally and physically day to day is my measure of where I'm going. Not my body, but because my body is reflecting the past. And every big goal, every transformation requires faith in the unseen. And if you don't have faith in the unseen, you won't get the goal, because that's anyone. That's even in my little business. Like I wouldn't be here 12 years later unless I believed in the unseen when I quit my job and I was on the dole before I started this business. For our weight, it's the same. We have to be able to believe in the unseen or we've got nothing. And if you're kind of more invested in what your body looks like in the mirror today, rather than what it could be and how you could feel and how you deserve to feel, like that's really where we need to aim things. The other little classic ones, and these are probably the ones that really jumped out at me. I remember day one, I lived in Stevensdale Road in London, and I was like, just for shits and giggles, I'm just going to see how long before my stomach asks for lunch. Not me, but my stomach asks for lunch. And this was like such a big deal. I'd gone on a mindful eating course and they hadn't said to do that as such. But like, I just was curious anyways, right? But from the moment I started doing that, right, my mind went crazy. My mind was like, what about your metabolism? What about this? What about that? What about whatever? And like, it was just like, it was in that moment I realized how much my eating and weight issues were in my head, because my head would not let it go. I was like, look, all I'm doing is waiting until my belly gets hungry. I'm not anti-food. I'm not saying I can't have carbs. I'm not cutting down on calories. I'm not doing anything. I'm just saying I want to wait until my belly actually asks for food. Because just like if my skin doesn't say it's cold, maybe it's not cold. And maybe if my bladder doesn't say I need to go to the loo, well, then maybe I'm not skipping going to the loo. I just don't need to go to the loo. And so it's the same with food. We're not skipping a meal if our belly actually hasn't said to eat. So when I was embarking on that, my mind had so many objections. So there was so much fear of food scarcity. So one of the things that I had to do in those moments was like, I am pro food. Once my belly gets hungry, I'm going to eat such delicious foods. I'm going to put lovely feelings of fullness in my belly. Food is not going anywhere. I'm not anti any food. I'm just waiting for my belly to be hungry. And like I said, there's a lot of these to's and fro's, that we have with our mind. Our mind can be like, oh, well, you've had the weight problem this time for this long. What makes you think you could ever get out of it? And I'm kind of like, first of all, if we're 40, we could have another 50 years on this planet. And even if we had a week left on this planet, we deserve to have a nice time with food. We deserve to have the time with food that we've been missing out on. Like if we've been dieters or we've had disordered eating, that means we've been using food coming from a place of anxiety, guilt, feeling overfull, feeling hungry, not being allowed stuff, having stuff we should have, like very controlling and negative. So even if we had a week left on this planet, we deserve now to use food as like it tastes good and we feel well after it. I think what we have to do in those moments is not make it about weight. Be like, instead, I'm not talking about weight. I'm not talking about my weight in 1 week or 1 month's time. I'm on about having a lovely rest of the afternoon. Alcoholics say 1 day at a time. And I think with eating issues, when the mind is blah, 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 that we like take a moment, center ourselves and ask ourselves, no, but what do I want and need in order to feel well physically and emotionally and mentally by 10 minutes time? I hope today's episode was helpful. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you want, and that'd be really cool. And thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.